Hey guys, this is HotNoob here, and this is PHP tutorial number 6. In the previous video we went over post variables and a little bit on get variables, and in this video we're going to be continuing on to a somewhat unrelated but not really that unrelated subject, for loops and other loops and whatnot. So we got for loops, for each loops, and while loops. So I'm going to start off here by opening up some PHP tags. Now, for loops, you might not think they're very handy, but they're extremely useful for minimizing the amount of code that you have and increasing the efficiency of your programs and whatnot. So, once you get more advanced, you'll find that you'll be using for loops and whatnot just non-stop. Now, when I first started learning to program, for loops were the most confusing things to me ever. I just did not get them. And that's only because no one explained to me how they work. So how the syntax is, it's very simple, really. For, and then you just open it, and you have your declaration, so your variable declarations. Then you have, come back here, your condition, and then your increment. Okay, I can't spell. As you can see, it's very simple. You only have 3 little parts to it, and then with a while loop, you only have your condition, right? It's really just an if statements that, continuously goes back and forth until whatever, right? So how it works is every time it loops, it's going to be checking the condition, and if the condition is false, then it continues on. Simple as that. It's an if statement right there, except it goes on until the condition changes. A for loop is a little bit more complex than a while loop. The only difference is you have a declaration. So this would be something like I equals 0. So I generally stands for index or whatever, or whatever you want to call it, and then it checks the condition. For the most part, you're going to see conditions such as, well, I is less than 10 or something, and then for your increments, you got I, $i plus plus. So how this works is when PHP comes to the loop, the first thing it does is it creates a variable called I, and then it checks the condition if I is less than 10 and whatnot, and then if it does, it goes through the code that's in between the brackets. And then finally, it goes through the increments. So in this case, it would add 1, or if you wanted, plus equals 2, and it would add 2. But I'm going to keep it at 1. And then finally, it would come back here, and it would skip this little part, and it would just check the condition, right? So then, you'll get my point. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say echo $i is, and then put it in there, and then just so we can read it afterwards, put in a nice little break. I'm gonna get rid of this here, and oops, come back here, and I'm gonna go to localhost and load it up. So as you can see, it loops through from 0 to 9, right? So let's say you wanted to go up to 10, change it to 11. Or if that's sort of confusing, you can use while I is less than or equal to 10, and it goes 0 to 10. As you noticed, it also starts at 0, but let's say you wanted to start at a different number, so let's put in 5 as the declaration. Poof, simple as that, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So why would this be useful? Well, let's say you wanted to create an array or something, or you have to work with an array. Actually, let's just start by creating an array by hand. So array equals array, and let's put some stuff in it. Let's do ABC like before, right? It's very difficult, right? And well, we can see, but let's just do it this way. So I equals 0, and then while it's less than 3. Now, why did I get rid of that greater than equal to? Because it's going to be 4 times like that, but we want it to do 3 times, and arrays start at 0, so we're keeping it at 0. I really hope I'm not confusing you guys too much. Anyways, just going to say echo $I, then add it in there, and then we're going to put a little period. And actually, let's just say is, and then add in the value there. And finally, let's add in a line break and finish the line with a semicolon. So zeros, a, etc. We basically just recreated a variable dump thing right there, but yeah, it helps. So let's say you didn't know how many elements were in your array. Well, there's a nice little function here called count. I'm going to do this noob style here, just so I can make a little efficiency point. So count $array. Ta-da! And we should get this exact same thing. But the problem with this is, well, like I said, it's a loop. Every time it's going to come back, it's going to run the function count, and then the count function is going to count each element in the array. This is a mistake that's commonly made in other languages, not so much in PHP. So the bigger your array is, the slower it's going to get. So the solution is to make a variable called length, or whatever you want to call it, and ta-da! So when it loops in, what's happening is it does its declaration, then it checks if I is less than $length, and then it does its little thing here, then it continues with the increment, and then it checks here again, and then it continues and keeps on going until this condition is equal to false. Simple as that. I know, that's really all there is to it. Wow. So I also wanted to continue on a bit more with arrays. I guess the best method would be array push. So I'm going to get rid of all of these values here, and I'm going to use a function called array push. And well, you guys can Google it, but what it says here is it pushes one or more elements onto the end of the array, right? So there's probably also array insert. No, I guess not. You guys can Google it for yourself, but for the most part, you'll only ever need to use push, and it's the most efficient. So what you want to do is you want to take your array, put it into the first parameter, and then you can put in another array, but in this case, I'm going to just put in the index. And because the length is equal to 0, I'm going to put it into 10. So what's happening is it's going to create an array with numbers containing, or an array containing numbers from 0 to 9, right? Not 10, 9. And so we can see the results. Just going to put var dump $array. Ta-da! And you get a nice little array. Simple as that. But let's say, you know, let's say we want to simulate. Let's simulate something that we don't know how many elements are in. So length equals count, assign array, and $I is less than $length, and $I plus plus. Wow. Whoops, come back here. And then echo $I is sign array and I. Woo. Simple as that. And to make it neat, okay, ta-da, 0, 0, etc. Right? So when we change this number, it's going to change how many are outputted, right? You know, that's the whole point of arrays, right? If you have unknown amounts of data. Or let's say you wanted to do some repetitive task. So let's start by creating a while loop, and we don't need to use arrays for a while loop. So I'm going to call this value equals, let's go 0. So let's put in a condition. Well, let's do this noob style. Let's just say while true. So what's going to happen is this is going to loop forever, right? So what we need is some way to stop it. Break. Woo! As simple as that. If you ever need to stop an array, you just call the break command and it will stop the array. So, let's say value. Let's just sort of create the same thing as a for loop, but in a while loop. So value plus plus, and then let's make it exactly the same. So the value would be going to the end. Then if same value is less than 10, then echo. Let's value is value, and then a nice little line break, and then we have the else break. Simple as that. And we should get, there we are. So as you can see, this is very messy, so that's the whole purpose of the for loop. That's why we can't just use while loops, and I mean there is other ways of doing it. You can just go wow, yep, you can just do it that way, of course, right? Oh, I didn't output it, but whatever, you get my drift. So what happens if you have an array with string keys, right? Let's say key and value 1 or whatever. Let's do key 1, and you had an array full of these, except I need to change it up a little bit, and let's call this key A and value A, right? Just so you know, you can't really programmatically do it with a for loop. That's where for each loops come in hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Google here and go to the PHP for each manual. As you can see, it's not quite as blunt or put forward as whatever. You can see it's, you know, there's a little more to it. Might be a bit more confusing. So anyways, for each. Now, the thing is, in PHP, for each loops are actually more efficient than for loops, and in other languages, for loops are more efficient than for each loops. Just something to keep in mind. You should not bring this bring the bad habit of using for each loops into other languages. Anyways, let's say for each. Let's switch over here because I don't use them that often. As okay, simple as that. So for each, come back here. Array as, so basically it's saying for each array element as, then we want to set it as value. So ta-da. So while it's looping through, it's getting each element in the array and setting the value as $value. So when you do echo and then put a nice little line break, it should output all of the values in the array. Okay, I have a syntax error. No! Come back here. Where's the syntax error? Oh my god, I'm that dumb. Okay, sorry. Whoopsies. I was not thinking there. There we are. So value 1, A, G, etc. And it's simple as that. But as you can see, you don't get the key. So what you do is you do one more step. Come back here. So notice how it's going to be the same format. Actually, I'll just type it in. So $key. There we are. So notice how it's, you know, key and value, and you got the little thing. So it's the same way. That's a good way to memorize it in case you forget. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this up a little bit and say $key holds value of, and as a result we get blah 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 holds blah blah blah, etc., etc. So that's pretty much it for loops. This is HotNoob. You can come check out my blog at hotnoob.com, and I'll see you guys later.